Hi everybody, this is Frank Henenlotter. I'm the writer, director of Brain Damage, and I'm here with
Mike Hunchback.
And Mike is here to make sure I don't babble too much or get lost. So since the credits are on, let me address the first thing about the controversy of why Zachary is not mentioned in the film, okay? Because when we put this out, a lot of people thought we were somehow or another not wanting to give him credit, and that's the last thing we had in mind. Here's what happened. I'll talk about Zachary later, how we found him and how great it was working with him. But after we had done the film, we did a non-union film. This is non-SAG. And after we had done the film, I called up Zachary. I was preparing the opening credits here, and I called up Zachary. I wanted to know exactly how he wanted his name spelled, because I've seen it L-E and I've seen it L-E-Y.
You should point out that that's your handwriting.
What?
That's your handwriting.
Oh, yeah, that's my handwriting all over the damn thing, yeah. This is also, well, as you'll see, it'll be my apartment here.
Oh, no, trust me, I was
not really, we built the set to look like my apartment with all the locks on the door. That's all real. Anyway, to get back to Zach, at the time I called him and I said, "Hey, Zachary, how do you want your name spelled? You want it L-E or L-E-Y?" And he said to me, "Well, on my SAG card it says L-E-Y." And I went, "Your SAG card? Holy shit!" I said, "This isn't a SAG film." And he said, "Oh, then don't put my name in it." And I said, "Well, everybody knows it's going to be you." And he said, No. He says, "Anybody asks you, tell them you did it." He said, "You do a great imitation of me." And at the time I did. But what you have to understand is SAG, back then SAG wasn't the same organization it is today. They were really rough. And if they had found out that Zachary had lent his voice to a non-union film, they would have severely fined him and maybe even have thrown him out of the union. So that's why we shut up about it for all those years. And at the time, too, there's a little nasty story with Frederick S. Clark, who was the, oh, that's a beautiful shot. Frederick S. Clark was the publisher and editor of Cinefantastique. And he left a message for us. He called Edgar's office and left a nasty message saying, hey, why aren't you guys giving Zachary credit and this stuff? And I don't like it, and I'm going to expose it. So better call me back. So I called him back, and I told him just what I explained to you. And I said, "So, Fred, now you've got a dilemma. You're either going to expose Zachary and cost him fines, maybe get him thrown out of the union, or you're going to do what we did and therefore commit the exact same crime." So fuck that shit. Anyway, all right. We almost saw Rick. Now, we're back to the apartment. Now, this is a set, and I just built it to look like my apartment, which is what I'm here now, even though that's not in my apartment. I switched the doorway.
Well, and explain to folks how that works. So basically, you've got a set rented. You need to show up there with measurements for what the construction guys got to build. And what you did is you just said, "Well, I could block this out here," and
exactly. I mean, it was just easier that way, than sitting down. And the Ackermans here. This is Theo Barnes. He, despite how solemn he is during this film, was hilarious on the set. He was always he was just the funniest guy to work with. Lucille, on the other hand, was very serious. She took this very, very, very seriously. And, unfortunately, both Theo Barnes and Lucille St. Peter have passed away. And, it would have been nice to have talked to them again about this. But anyway, I love this shot, too.
And were they auditioned for the film, Frank, or did you know them from?
No, I was looking at headshots and everything, and I liked their looks. I called them in, and also, the name Morris and Martha Ackerman. I didn't pick Ackerman based on Fari, even though that's fine. I mean, but I grew up in Woodhaven, New York, and Woodhaven, Queens. And for the first 6 years of my life, I lived in an apartment, and it had this like garden in the center of it, which all of us kids used to play in. And there was this elderly couple that would just hated everybody, and they would walk past the kids like me and just sneer at us. Not just look at, but sneer at us like they were pissed off that we were alive. And years later, I mentioned it to my mom, and she said, "Oh yeah, that was the Ackermans." I said, "What was their first name?" She said she didn't know, but anyway. Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interject, but one of the things I noticed right away, even the first time I saw the film, was how cool the posters are in the room here.
Yeah.
You got real like bands that people would really be into. If this character was real, he would like the Cramps, he would like Suicide.
Yeah.
And so what's up with that set dressing?
Well, that's why we did it.
Well, did I recall wrongly that Mark, who worked on the film, one of the guys didn't he some of those posters his?
Who?
Mark?
No, probably Gabe.
It was probably Gabe. Okay.
Probably Gabe, yeah. And here's Beverly Bonner from the basket case. Look at Theo's face. He's hilarious here. And that's the same bathroom we were just in. We just repainted it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how you do low-budget filmmaking. You know, you just paint the walls and just, you know. All right. So now the other set that we're going to cut to, this was another set that we built. See, and that's Rick Herbst, of course, now Hearst, and Jennifer Lowry, and Gordon MacDonald was just outside in the hall. And these were all people that just came in for auditions, and I liked them all. And I thought they delivered beautifully for this. There's Gordon right there. From what I've read online, he's now married to Holly Hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he did fine in life, you know. And I also really encouraged this over-the-top lighting in the film. I really wanted to play up the blue and the colors and just make it different. I just, you know. Also,
everybody loves it, yeah.
This is my first 35 millimeter film. This is also a set. Almost everything in this film is a set. I'll point out when things are not a set. This was my first 35 millimeter film, and I absolutely loved shooting at 35, and I loved camera operating. That's like one of my favorite things in the films. I don't like directing, I like camera operating. And that's nothing more than Alka-Seltzer in the mouth. And I love this shot. I just think it's so beautiful. When we, I don't know where to start. The origins of this, I don't know.
Well, that doesn't
there's a
sound
little basket.
I noticed that, yep.
I guess the origin of this goes back to after I did Basket Case, I wanted to do a film called Insect City, and we couldn't, and nobody wanted to do it. Probably they were all right, but started thinking of another idea, and I came up with the idea of a guy with a parasite on him. I originally was going to call it, the shooting script, was called Elmer the Parasite, which I knew I would never do, but it just cracked me up. And I like the idea of a guy who willingly let a creature live on his body, as opposed to the old science fiction thing where a creature gets on you and now you're the host and they are in control of your body. I like the idea that why would somebody willingly let a parasite work on them?
Well, the thing that anybody seems to say about this film that watches it, even remotely closely, is that's what makes it a great metaphor for addiction.
Well, yeah.
And addiction of any kind. It could be behavioral, it could be drugs. Addiction, we willingly play into addiction. And that's that's the overt thing in this film, and it's really attractive for a horror film.
Well, that's when I thought of that, I realized, because I couldn't think why. Why would he do it? When I thought of the idea of addiction, the film basically wrote itself.
Yeah.
It was just so easy and so much fun to do. And we rented like an ex-factory space on West 33rd Street between 10th and 11th Avenues. And, that was a Steadicam shot from Jimmy Muro. It didn't look like one, but the beauty of the Steadicam, we could just drop it down like that, we rented this space. It was actually a very small space, so it was crammed with these sets because to do the amount of special effects we were doing, we couldn't shoot on location anywhere. It just made sense to just build the sets, and they work very nicely. And this is the first hallucination scene, which I think really works beautifully. Yeah. And when he looks up here, and I love the music here. This music was done by Gus Russo and Clutch Riser, who also did the score of Basket Case. And that is my actual light fixture from the bedroom, the overhead light fixture. I love making films personal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do that stuff. So, and this just worked. That cut that Rick has on his lip, I just thought he was too pretty. And I thought, let me toughen him up a bit. Let me put a little
split lip.
Yeah, left unexplained, of course, you know? Oh, sorry.
Well, one of you mentioned, and we're getting special effects like right out of the gate here. You mentioned Gabe before, and I love the story of how Gabe got on this movie. I find it really cool.
Yeah. Well, by the way, the reason I love this shot is you notice nothing floats. That was the whole point of that shot, is because it may be a little too subtle, but nothing actually floats.
Yeah.
And you know, we built a huge section of the set and flooded it.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
you're not going to do this in the apartment.
You know, this is what you know, the way you do it back then. And so we built all these sets. Where am I? I'm talking. Where did you want to know? I'm already lost. Oh,
Gabe getting started on the film because he wasn't known yet. He had never. He was working on. Okay, back up. When I was going to do Insect City, at one time we thought we were going to get the funding, and instead I talked to. We didn't, but I talked to a couple of makeup people in New York, and one of the makeup guys. I could tell from telling him what I wanted to do in the film that he really didn't like any idea I was selling on. Okay, I could tell there was no enthusiasm, and in fact, he seemed to be like almost groaning out loud. Okay, but he had this assistant who really said nothing, and the assistant was sitting behind him, and every time I'd come up with one of these ideas, he would just explode. His eyes would burst. He'd start to laugh, and of course, we put Rick here in an actual bathtub, flooded him with it. You know, well, poor guy. You know, but you know, this was Rick's first film, and an absolute trooper. He had fun doing it, and you know, he's one of these guys too. And I guess when you're first starting out, almost anything ridiculous that we asked him to do, he was all gung ho for. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, no matter how messy or horrible it was, you know. So anyway, I remembered Gabe, and I didn't know what he had done in a couple of past years, but I knew that he's the one I wanted for this, and called him up, and we brought him to New York, and he is that building I was talking about. We shot on the top floor, which is the 4th floor. On the 2nd floor was Gabe's lab. We built a lab for him there, living quarters, and for him, Jim McLaughlin, who came with him, and also another guy. Oh, and here it is now. Elmer wouldn't exist without Gabe and without Dave Kindlin. Dave Kindlin was an expert on the mechanics. He was an animatronic expert. He still is. And he gave Elmer all this life. And we had a whole bunch of different Elmers. The idea was you had a different Elmer no matter what you had him do. You know, and there was a talking Elmer, there was a wiggling Elmer, there was a this Elmer, and there was a giant Elmer head.
Giant, yeah.
Yeah. And Rick is wearing one of Dave's, I guess, I don't know what you call it, some rig that he could. Dave was moving levers off camera, and this thing is moving around him. Also, I want to point out the hideous sounds that Elmer makes, all these awful gurgling sounds. That's Rick's stomach.
Yeah.
Rick was telling us one day that until he has his first cup of coffee, his stomach makes all these great noises. So we put him, hey, Brian. Anyway, let me talk exactly now. The one thing I wanted for Elmer is I wanted an intelligent creature. I didn't want Freddy Krueger jokes. I didn't want a monster. I wanted a beautiful voice. The more intelligent, the more deceptive. This is a Faust story. This is, you know, Rick is Faust, Elmer's the devil. You know, making him a deal. This is what I'm going to do for you. This is what you got to do for me. You know, and so I didn't know who to get, and I didn't think of Zachary until I called an agent that handled voice actors, and I told him what I needed, and he's going through the. He said, "Well, I got this guy. This guy I didn't recognize." And he says, "And I have Zachary and that." And I went, "Whoa, Zachary?" Now, you know. I'm old enough to remember when the first Universal horror films were put on television, and in the shock package way back in '57. And I used to stay up at night and watch them in New York when Zachary was the horror host. That was one of the things they did all the time. They would, the stations would have a horror host. Like, you can't just put a horror film on, you have to have a horror host. And Zachary was the best of them all. He may not have been the first, Vampira was, but Zachary was the best.
Yeah.
And even outside of New York, he was known. He did records. He did, an LP I still have in vinyl, the Spook Along with Zachary.
Yeah, Dinner with Drac was a hit across the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He appeared on other shows. He did he ran for president in 1960. He really had a long career. He was on New York television for many. Oh, that's okay. That's our giant head there.
Perspective shot here, right? Yeah.
It's a split diopter shot. We were going to do it one way, and we realized on the set, it's not going to work out. So somebody ran out and bought a split diopter lens, and what it does is it captures the two levels of, you could focus both sides. Mm-hmm. The downside is it creates a blur in the middle, but okay, it's worked great. This is a pile of real brains that I was photographing with a macro lens. And it was great because every time I shifted focus, it looked like I was actually dollying through the brains. And that's the lighting is all special effects by Maglicetti, who did all of the special effect visuals in this thing. But I have that head. I still have that head in my bedroom, and unfortunately, it has terribly deteriorated. Yeah. It's so painful. I don't look at him. I have him covered because I don't like to see him rot away.
One thing I remember too, Frank, just the insane number of things that Elmer does, the jaw dropping, mm-hmm. having the fangs in the throat, having that was you pitching all these crazy ideas at Gabe, who instead of shutting you down, tried to check off each one and actually do it. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. You see, and then let me get back to talking about Zach. Don't let me forget
Sorry.
that. But with Gabe, Gabe now is a director. And he's made movies. He understood it way back then. You break the effects into the individual shots. Mm. I need a shot of the needle going into the brain. I need a shot of this. So you create an Elmer for every one of them.
Yeah.
And that's how you make it work. And it's easy, but it's time consuming. But it makes more sense than building one giant, mechanical device and expect it to do everything.
Yeah.
So anyway,
back to Zach.
And Zach, the first monster magazine I ever bought, back then you had monster magazines, and the first one I ever bought was Famous Monsters #7 with Zachary on the cover. So I grew up with him. I was thrilled to get him. Zach couldn't be, if you ever met him, all he does is laugh. He's in a perpetual good mood. He got the joke right away. I didn't need I sent him the script. He didn't need any coaxing. He delivered exactly what it was. He read it, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And he had a lot of fun with this. So now we're in, I don't know if this is a Brooklyn or Queens, but it's a junkyard that was owned by Jim Muro. It's an auto salvage yard owned by Jim Muro's dad. And Jim had just finished shooting Street Trash here. This is what it was. In fact, half of the crew I had were kids from Street Trash, and the other half mm-hmm. were kids from Slime City.
Yeah.
And Jim Muro did all the Steadicam. Now, that's a Steadicam shot because you're not going to set up a dolly.
Wow.
You're not going to set up a dolly. So it's a real fast. I'll tell you. I remember when Jimmy first told me he was going to get. I've known Jimmy since he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I remember, and he really wanted to get into films, and in fact, the first film he worked on was Basket Case. Where he's listed as Buster Muro. That's and this is inside the actual office of the place here. But anyway, and I remember one day Jimmy saying to me, Frank, I was thinking I got this money, I'm gonna buy a Steadicam. And I said to him, what the hell for? I mean, that's not going to get you any work. Yes.
Flash forward to the abyss.
Fast forward to, I mean, he's the number one Steadicam operator in Hollywood for years and years, which proves to anybody, you never ask me for advice, This is Bradley Rhodes, and
Oh, Frank, I gotta just chime in again.
This is again Steadicam. Well, Steadicam.
I love this scene, story-wise, character-wise. This is so perfect that when you're introduced to drugs the first time and you get high, those initial highs, you're jumping up and down, and all you're looking at is, in this case, a bunch of wrecked cars,
right.
and you're so excited.
This is right. Wow, junk, metal. And this was very difficult to film because these are the lens makes it look wider than it is, but these corridors were extremely narrow, and we're doing Steadicam all through this.
Yeah.
And it was oh, I love those the few Polaroid shots. Yeah,
this stuff is just great.
Yeah,
and it does. It sort of, this is the initial high, which the character tries to, this elusive initial high, he keeps on trying to get back to, but he's not going to be able to do it.
And you see with the Steadicam, all these beautiful dolly shots are not dolly shots; they're Steadicam moves.
He's just whipping the camera around.
Yeah, and it was a huge time saver. I mean, if we had to lay dolly track for all this, I don't think we could have.
Yeah,
it just made no sense. It was also a very unpleasant time of year to do this because it was freezing. I think it had just snowed, and it was with mud on the ground. It was not an easy shoot there. I think we were there for 3 nights, 4 nights. I'm not sure, but everybody was freezing.
Do you remember what month it was?
No.
But it was the winter months.
Yeah,
it was,
yeah. I mean, everybody's fingers fell off. We all got frostbite. We lost toes and limbs, but it was, and I just love all this stuff.
Oh, me too.
It just. So that's about everything. I'm out of here.
Yep, it was nice. Thanks for tuning in, you guys.
Yeah.
This will repeat for the rest of this film.
It'll just loop it. I don't know. There's so much I want to talk about here. Among the other people that worked on this, among the Slime City side was Greg Lamberson. He was and he's gone on to do, probably a half a dozen horror films now, directing them. And also the other person from Slime, who shot Slime, was a guy named Peter Clark, who came onto this film and immediately became my right-hand man. I couldn't do this film without him. And he subsequently became my best friend. And we were as close as you could get until his very unexpected death in 1997. But I couldn't have done the film really the way it is without him. He was there every minute. And he was also, he was short, but he had a very muscular arms, and he was the only one who could lift that 35 millimeter camera up, put it over his shoulder, set it down here. It was great. And again, another nice makeup effect by Dave Kinland, who put the, it's an appliance that he's wearing, hiding the wires, and it's a nice, beautiful, gory shot. And and this is some nice stop motion animation by Al Maglicetti.
Beautiful. But it's also the parasite being stuck to the forehead and a guy not being able to pull it off with both of his hands and his full force. That's a very Henenlotter gore effect. I always appreciate that in this movie. It's really gross and it's uncomfortable and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, it is fun. And I mean, also the amount of blood in this, I really was happy with too. If you're burrowing into someone's forehead, it should bleed. Something the MPA never quite understood. Oh, we make a nice mistake here. He picks it up with one hand and brings it up in the shot with the other. So I just held those frames a couple of, probably.
It still works.
Yeah, you wouldn't notice it. Now, and once again here, now I believe here, these close-ups of the giant head, we didn't do this at the junkyard. We did this at the set, and as you can see, I think that's a slide of the junkyard in the background. And that shot there is a bunch of metal pie plates. We just
made it look like
made it look like metal, and that's and once again I love going inside the head, and the little cartoon electricity. That's my little electricity kit. I have
You've seen it if you folks have seen Bad Biology. You saw
it's in that. It's also the sign in. Basket case, the hotel sign. I bought at a garage sale. They had these Quack medical kits from the 1920s, and they didn't cure anything, but I think it's a Freon gas in it, and you turn it on, it crackles, and you can play it almost like wave it around your hand, and it's supposed to, you know.
There's all sorts of those crackpot. I mean, there was a devices to relax the housewife or increase, you know.
Well, there's now they're sold as sex toys.
Yeah, yeah.
But not back then, you know, and.
No, but there's one that's in order to calm down the housewife from doing so many chores, and all
Right,
it is,
right, right.
all it is you clip it to you, and it gives you a light electric shock, and that's as
I'll tell you,
complicated as it is.
after we shot in this junkyard, I swore to God I would never do it again, and we did it again in Bad Biology, and that was even more miserable. That place, you know, because that had it was just a rainstorm, and we were just everywhere you stepped, you sunk. It was like quicksand. It was just great, and you know. Let me just praise the actors here, because this is ridiculous dialogue. It's a ridiculous concept, and you have to play it straight. This wouldn't have worked if it was overtly tongue-in-cheek. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you just play it as straight as possible, and it worked. And they, oddly enough, they look like brothers for a split second. You know, so okay, you know. And
well, I actually like all this plotting here. I don't mind it at all. Yeah.
No, you know, I love the joke with all the you open a room with, what is it, 6 locks or something, and what's in there that's being hidden is buckets of water. And those little figures on the side, those are made by Gabe's brother, one of Gabe's brothers. It's all very weird, okay? But I love the personal touches that, if I don't bring it, the crew members do. There's all that kind of stuff in there that I really have a good time with. And again, this is another reason why we needed sets, because this bathroom had to have an Elmer inside it that worked. You know, so pardon my throat, but you know
he's having a good old time.
Yeah.
Look at his face. He's great.
I know.
So funny.
He's like totally normal. I'm in here with my pet turtle. You know. Yeah.
Just having a blast. Yeah.
And they're playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you know, Elmer's still your best friend at this point. You know, just like your first couple of lines of cocaine are your best friend.
Yep.
You know, and it hasn't changed yet. That shot we did of Gordon, we had to reshoot it because the first take, my thumb was in the shot.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, as big as can be.
Oh, we've got some other superstars in this scene here.
We do, huh?
Yeah. Well, doesn't your buddy John Whittick?
Oh yeah, John is in this, and Dan Fry. That's right. He's in this too. Yeah, this is a place
talk about John,
on West 43rd Street at the time, and I love this scene because it's again a ridiculous hallucination, you know, but you know what can I say? And his dialogue is I really like the dialogue I wrote. I hate to say that but it's how it's delivered.
It's great
because he delivers it, and it almost sounds, you know, almost poetic, and that's really not how it read. You know, it's the delivery there. You know.
No, but again, all of this works because it's that initial relationship with addiction that somebody can have. That's just. Like, you don't understand, man. It's really, I'm on top of the world now. You got to believe me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's scary. It's nutty stuff.
I guess so. I don't, you know. John Whittick is right behind
There
Rick.
he is.
And in fact, John also wrote the historical dialogue that Theo delivers. About that we based on the Maltese Falcon.
Yeah.
You know, that scene. But anyway, we'll get to that. But John gives him a wonderful sneer here, which I love. You know, and in fact, John Whittick is in our, there he goes. I love that. And there's Dan Fry. Dan Fry is another one of the makeup people on this. And John Whittick is also going to be in the Mike Diana doc that we're still working on right now. He's
one of my favorite interviews.
He's an EC collector, an avid EC collector, and this, you know, this cracked us up. I mean, you know, I said to Gabe, I need a lot of little, and you know, they're pulsating with condoms in them.
Oh, that's funny.
That's all it is. Yeah. You put a condom in them, and you breathe. You know, you have different guys on different tubes.
Hey, did you guys put a little blue food coloring in the spaghetti? It always looked like gray or like off. The spaghetti is like wonderfully gross.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't know if we did. We may have just color timed it. I just you know, it's the brain. I think that's.
That's so great.
And in fact, on our last take, we said let's go for broke, and we made sure we popped all the condoms in every one of them. There he goes. Now, originally, I wanted to have a scene of like a montage of Rick Brian, I don't know, Rick O'Brien, Rick walking through the streets.
Look at that.
But we just did this shot, and it turned out so great.
And that's shot from a...
Well, it's Artemis Pizarro, who was working on the sets in this. It was her car. Her car had absolutely no shocks. So Peter Clark actually pressed down on me with all his weight so I wouldn't shake the camera.
Stable, right?
And it was like the first take. And once I saw this, I thought, I don't need a montage of the city. This is St. Mark's, by the way, for anybody who's never been there. And all I needed to do was ask the music guys to write me a little piece, and Clutch Riser wrote this little piece of music timed just for this, so it didn't feel...
It's a nice piece of music.
Yeah.
And St. Mark's hasn't changed at all, right?
It really hasn't. The stores have changed, but it's really the same dive then, now as then, you know? I mean, you know, is Manic Panic still there? I don't know. Now, this is filmed, this is a real location. This was filmed, I don't remember now, underneath, I think it was maybe on 11th Street and 2nd, somewhere like that. And I love this is I forget his name now. He's,
oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
Our first major accident, folks, and you're hearing it live.
Maybe I should just hold this. But anyway.
Yeah, Frank just went through the coffee table here, folks. It's going to take a sec to clean up.
Well, I did that a couple of weeks ago, but anyway. Anyway, I'm just going to hold this lavalier because I'll be doing this all.
Okay.
All you know. And
if they don't like it, they can return the DVD.
Yeah, right. And anyway, I always like that little bit with the bum sobbing like that, you know. What's his name? Michael Rubenstein, I think, is, you know. You know, if I'm off with names, I'm sorry. It's hard to remember everybody, you know. Back then, you know, spritzing him with fake sweat. It was also very weird to act with a little puppet stuck down your back, you know what I mean? which I love, you know. So, and this was one of the most difficult cuts in the film. Was cutting from the sign to the band and keeping it in sync. And I don't know why it was so difficult, but we worked on that over and over again. I was fortunate enough that the co-editor of this film was Jimmy Quay, and he was terrific. And he and I worked like hell on every one of these cuts. And back then it wasn't like, you know, Final Cut. You had to actually splice plastic, put it back with, it was a difficult cut, And we must have cut that sequence 50 times to get that right cut on the beat. I don't know why it's so difficult now, but back then it was killing us.
Now there's some other familiar faces that we...
Oh yeah, this is most of the crew.
God, that's funny.
This is most of the crew in this.
Yeah.
And this is not a steady cam shot. This was, I didn't want this to look too smooth. And there's Vicki Darnell.
She's great.
Yeah, she's also in Frankenhooker. And there's Jim McLaughlin, who just poked him in the eye, you know. And Jim McLaughlin is another one of the effects people. And there's Mark Clapper,
who,
you know, worked on Bad Biology with us. Anyway, I had to. I thought it was easier if I just walked through the crowd with a 35 millimeter camera, and which is not easy, but it worked nice. It gave me the effect I wanted here, you know.
God,
and
she is so perfect. She's gorgeous, and she is so perfect. There's a Dee Ramone had a quote where he talked about the girls that were interested in the Ramones. You figure if you're in a rock band, you get all these sexy chicks. He's like, nah, for us, it was the monster girls. These monster women. And she always struck me as that kind of predatory, you know, grab a guy. I mean, she's perfect.
Oh, and by the way, that's Dave Kinlan, who I mentioned before, did the animatronics. He's on the right side of the screen there.
Huh.
And there's Gabe in the background with the mohawk.
Yeah, yep.
That's not an effect. He just shaved his head.
Up, right?
Yep. He just, you know. And now this was another set. When we filmed all the bedroom stuff, we tore the set down, and before we built the next one, which was the courtyard, we had this empty space, and this became the club.
Yeah.
And the band playing is the swimming pool cues.
There's a funny story about the song, too. I don't know.
Yeah. It was. They sent me the tape, and I heard it, and I thought, that was great. You know, let's do it.
This is like a real New York band, for you guys that don't know.
Yeah.
They were a real New York band playing at the time.
And when they came up, I'm gonna cough again, hold it. When they showed up, the song was slower. And I realized there was the tape they sent me was at the wrong speed. It was going too fast. And there's Gabe going nuts.
Yeah.
And so I said to them, guys, I don't like the slow version. You know.
Well, you're playing this whole scene around the song already.
So they were troopers about it, and they said, fine, we'll just do it to the fast version. And I thought that was wonderful of them, which is, I guess, hey, it's their fault. They sent me the wrong tape. What can I say, you know?
Yeah, but everybody's rubbing their nose.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Well, there's a cold going around New York at the time.
Yeah, that was the crack epidemic just happened here. Now
this is...
The spoiler room is actually on top of the Film Center building.
Huh.
And, this is guerrilla filmmaking. You just see a location. You just take it. You just do it. We just did this in the middle of the night. Just went up there very quietly. There was no one up there. It was on a weekend, and we just shot it there.
Well, this is a classic story. So for me, growing up renting this movie, it was, you got to make sure that you get this uncut version of it because it had this particular scene in it.
Well, I should talk about the uncut because the blowjob scene was never meant for an R rating. Okay, we shot this film with the idea of getting an R. Now, the MPA made us cut a lot more than they should have made us, and also the company that released the film hated the film, and they made cuts. Okay,
that's crazy.
But Andre Blay, who financed this film, let me talk about him too. Okay, remind me. Andre Blay, who financed this film, said to me, "Can you make a second version?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, let's get an R-rated version, but let's have an unrated version on the shelf with some extra scenes." I don't recall anybody doing that yet at the time, but he was far thinking. And so the blowjob was meant just for that, and it was also, and the scene where he pulls, the goo comes flying out of his ear was shot just for that. I'm not crazy enough to think I could have gotten away with that with an R rating.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, let me talk about Andre Blay. And
wait, finish this first while this is happening. Because on set even was a little bit
people walked off the set. They got annoyed. And I think we ended up just stopping. The moment there's a controversy, just get rid of everybody.
Well, the actors didn't mind.
No, the actors didn't mind. In fact, what I did is
I
bought her, I don't know if it was Bianca or something, I bought her something to spray in the mouth that would dull, you couldn't taste it. It was like you couldn't taste anything, And she got the joke. She wasn't offended by it,
Well, people, this is typically you hear people say, "Oh, this is anti-woman," or "This is this." This is trying to come up with the most audacious possible scene that teenagers watching a horror film are going to go, "I can't believe we just saw that."
Well, it's not a blowjob, folks.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but it makes people uncomfortable, and that's part of why it's such a great scene.
Well, all these close-ups were not done in the boiler room. These were done on our set. We put a little area that we put aside. That shovel was there so I could match it with the close-up on set
pure ecstasy.
It was. I mean, it's really disgusting. I mean, it's the point.
It's a gross out scene.
Sue me. It's just, the fact that it leaves this residue on his fly is what's so damn disgusting.
That's just great.
Yeah,
come
and it's
on.
Like,
oh my
God! It was just like vile, and and there's Dan Fry again, coked out of his mind. So now what?
He's just fixing his fly as he walks away. It's great. It's great.
Now when we tore this set down, we built. It's not here yet. This is still a set though. Looking in the window.
Oh yeah. Well, this is Well, we're going to talk about Andre Blay too. I don't know if we want to detour.
Oh yeah. So yeah, Andre Blay invented the home video market. Okay? He had a company named Magnetic Video. This is a beautiful set, by the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what those bricks are? Sponges.
Yeah. This is, for me watching the film, I just see this is just a real alley. That's all it looks like.
These were sponges of all different, and we just put them in by hand to get that real brick texture, which you wouldn't get if you bought a piece of plastic.
Huh.
You know what I mean? See how they move up and down?
Yeah.
That looks like real brick. And that's all smudged up. And
that's incredible.
The archway is, we found this piece of door outside the place through that there. It just looks great, Anyway, Andre Blay, once upon a time, had a company named Magnetic Video. And it specialized in doing films for industry. how to do this, how to, sell this, how to, And he had the idea about what happens if I could put motion pictures on tape, which no one had ever thought of, Beta and VHS. So he went to the majors, and they all ignored him. They thought it was ridiculous. And, but he went to 20th Century Fox, and they at the time needed money. So they said, sure, we'll give you, 90 titles for X amount of...
This is, 76, 77 or something?
No, yeah, it's got to be around there. It's got to be late 70s. And, of course, all of a sudden, overnight, an industry was born.
Well, yeah, you remember the films. It was...
Well, it was Patton.
Yeah,
and films like that, Sound of Music, Alien.
But they're letting them go.
And the most important one for me was Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is our Maltese Falcon moment where we're doing. I wanted a history, and I don't know history, so John Whittick wrote this scene for me.
Very nice dialogue.
Yeah, Aylmer, Aylmer, which. I don't know how we figured that out, but he was great here, I don't know if that was his. I guess that's his real accent too, because it comes and goes. But it's Anyway, Andre ended up. The industry exploded. Every studio now started putting their films out, except one studio, Fox. They couldn't start their own video line because Andre had all the films.
Yep.
So they had to buy him out. Oh. Was that and then Andre went and bought Embassy. And what? Put it back on why?
Wait, because it's going.
Oh, it's all right. I'll just stand in front of. I'll just have it in front of me. I'm holding the lavalier, and Anyway, Andre.
The 20th Century Fox couldn't get their films back.
Yeah, so they bought Andre out. He went over to Embassy, and at some point we sent this script to Embassy, and it got an A possible recommend, and they thought, wow, that's odd. Films don't get that. So they sent it out. They sent it out 3 times, and it came back with high ratings. So they thought, let's do it. So at one point, I was going to do this for Embassy, and what happened was all of a sudden Embassy was bought like a couple of weeks later. And it was bought by Coca-Cola. And Coca-Cola said, oh, we're not going to change anything, so don't worry about it. So we planned on doing it again, and then a couple of weeks later, it was bought by, I think, Weintraub or something like that. And they said, yeah, we're canceling all the projects. So all right, okay. So Andre took this with him, and he financed this himself. So, yeah, that's the story of that.
What is the trouble about? One of the things I always liked hearing about was because it's so strange. The trouble with the title, where did that originate? With which distributor, or was that the MPAA? Or...
Which what? What title?
Brain Damage.
That's mine.
No. But the trouble with the title, there were some complaints saying, I believe that somebody thought that Brain Damage would making fun of handicapped people.
Yeah, but
something.
you just have to. It's all you just have to ignore all that stuff.
But of course, But I just thought that was.
I remember my answer to that. I don't remember who it was. My answer was, I said, you don't get it. Every 15-year-old kid thinks they have brain damage.
Yeah.
They'll identify with it.
Yeah.
So you just. I mean, the trouble you have with this stuff is severe. With people not liking this, cut that. This is wrong. And if you listen to everything and you make a committee decision, you don't have a movie anymore.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So, but I mean, this came out, we were all hoping for a mainstream film, and it really didn't turn out mainstream. What's interesting, though, is the New York offices of New Line Cinema loved it, and they wanted to put it out. And they were even already talking with different ideas for a campaign. And then the film was sent to the West Coast office of New Line Cinema, who said, no way in hell are we going to touch this. So, that's the way it goes, I forgot your buckets. What line is that? And he says it with sarcastic sincerity, which is great. I don't know how you can do that, Lovely shot. We went to New Jersey just to get that beautiful shot, And this is on Houston Street somewhere. And at this point, the Bowery still had remnants of the bad old days of the Bowery. And this is one of the few remaining flop houses, the Sunshine Hotel. Now the new museum is in that parking lot, that whole area. And this is a real hotel, and we got permission to film the sign. In fact, one of the takes, he opens the door and a homeless guy comes stumbling out. I didn't think we should ask him to sign a release, so we just we just redid it. I love this grungy thing. I mean, it's just one of another set we built, and I just love making dirty sets.
And how much of a fantasy is a hotel in the area of the city that you were in looking like this? Was that still around? Was that you could
I don't know. I was never in one.
Yeah.
I just thought this is what it should look like.
I remember when I was a kid in the 80s, I came to visit parents' friends.
Yeah.
And the apartment was so small and so dirty.
Yeah.
It really seemed like a reality that
Yeah.
the city was as scummy as.
Yeah. Well, and we also used to go out on garbage nights and find objects like the sink here, the broken sink, and also the toilet bowl and basket case. You'd go out at night and you'd find this stuff. I also remember, I don't smoke, but I remember lighting a pack of cigarettes and just dropping them on the floor so they burn through. So you'll see later on all these cigarette burns over the years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is where the plot really changes here, where you realize Elmer is not your best friend.
Yeah.
Oh, also, let me also point out, we couldn't record sound with this because Elmer made so much noise. It had all these metal cables, and we also, it was all done to playback of Zachary, like you would do a musical. We'd play Zachary's dialogue, and Dave would match the lips and all that stuff. It was kind of crazy, And I don't remember if Rick is actually doing live sound here or that's all dubbed later. I don't remember anymore. But I mean, give him a lot of credit. He's performing a very great bit of acting against a puppet.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Now, somewhere in this, I dubbed a line. I think I dubbed 2 lines because it was out of sync and I needed it. And like I said, I used to do a. Oh, Brian.
You still do.
A little bit, But I think it's the last. I think I know where it is. And look how coy he is. And Dave gave him little eyebrows. King.
Yeah.
Tacky, Brian, tacky. And that's I think a slide out the window.
Huh.
Yeah. But I love the artifice of this. I like both. I mean, I like filming on real locations if it's a beautiful location, like the mansion we filmed Bad Biology in.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I love the artifice of making a fake set and deciding, on that part of the wall, I'm gonna, let's make a hole and show the,
Yeah. You can really just go home wild.
Yeah. And I love the battle of wills here, and damn well Elmer's gonna win here.
Yeah.
So what else haven't we talked about? I guess nothing.
Again, thanks for coming, folks. Wish I threw this on a loop.
Yeah. I also love having somebody throw up.
Yeah.
Oh, and so I love how already pale Rick is. He just deteriorates so beautifully here with the makeup. And again, this is all Jimmy doing Steadicam because it's easier than. Oh no! You know what? We did have a dolly track in this room. We really did. Yeah, we did both. There's a couple of shots of Steadicam and a couple of shots are...
This is probably a dolly than this super slow dolly.
Yeah, because... and it was difficult to do a dolly because we did an 85 millimeter lens, and that requires constant focus, and that's what Peter used to do. Just keep that baby in focus every shot. It's just amazing.
I can never imagine how those guys can do that. It seems so tough to me.
Well, we weren't sure either, but you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You do. I mean, how the industry does it, they put marks on the floor. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't even know if they use dollies anymore. They probably use all kinds of gyro cams or whatever now. I don't know. But back then, you put it on a...
He's not doing that good here. Oh, this is another famous cut, unfortunately, coming up.
Well, what's interesting about this scene is he pulls his brains out, cut from the film. So if you buy if you bought the film out on Paramount VHS in the day, the back cover is the cut scene of him holding the bloody brain.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, you cut the film and yet you're selling it. I don't quite understand it, you know.
Did this just come to you, this idea?
Yeah.
Because this is just such a
and
good
I loved doing the sound effects for that. There was a little piece of styrofoam that was greasy, and this is an old magic trick. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know, Gabe's behind him, feeding this up through a whole bowl of stuff. You know, and it's a talk about, you know, if you've ever had a bad trip, this is about as perfect as it gets. And this is another great sound effect for the ear pop. One of it was me breaking a piece of styrofoam, and the other was me going. And
there we go.
This is a nice matte shot. Al Mag did, and
that's great.
You know, he was locked. Rick was kind of locked into a harness there, so he wouldn't move too much, and we got that effect. And they cut that too. You know, I mean, it was sort of like, okay, fine.
But it not really happening is what I thought they were concerned with back then, but it doesn't seem to matter.
It just, you know, I mean, the nice part is when it was released in Europe, it was titled Elmer, and it was always uncut.
Yeah.
Everybody in Europe saw it uncut, you know. And I need to take a sip of soda.
You got something? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm going to keep...
Yep. I know that feeling all too well. There you go.
And we used to, I think that's coffee stains we used to pour on poor Rick.
Looks perfect.
Yeah. I mean, there's all my cigarette butt burns.
Yep.
This is a shot that the company that released the film cut from the film.
That's right, because of the drugs, right? They thought it was too...
They said it was too depressing.
Yeah.
Well, of course it was too depressing, but that's missing from all the VHS prints. I don't know if it's in the 35 print anymore. I never saw the R-rated cut. And again, Zacherley's performance is great. He got it. I never once had to say to him, "Oh no, Zach, be a little more menacing or be a little more sarcastic." You know, he just knew how to do it and just did it. You know.
Yeah, what a
you know, he's
great
just
performer.
He knew Elmer's tune. He just didn't, and he's just doing it. It's just perfect.
Yeah, where did this song come from for you? This was
somebody told me about it when they heard that the monster was named Elmer. They said, "Did you ever know there was a song called Elmer's Tune?" And I thought, "Oh my God, really? Let's use it." You know, I mean, I think the song was public domain at the time because it was from way back when. You know, and it's just. I don't know. It's great. And I love this mix of poor Rick crying his eyes out in absolute despair and this idiot monster singing a song. You know, what are you trying to do, Frank? Is this funny? Is this serious? What are you doing?
But that's you know, that's one of the things that works really well about your best stuff is that it's straddling a few things. It's exciting at the same time, and it's funny, and it's also kind of real, and it's beyond the pale.
All of the above.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You know, why does it have to be one or the other? You know.
No, but it's really a nice touch, yeah.
I think when he says, but you have to feed me first, and he starts, I think that's the line I dubbed, when he starts going crazy here, yeah. I think that's the line I dubbed, but I can't swear to it. I can't swear to it. Another set we built.
Oh, this is great.
It's a nice set, because we just built one side of it, you know. Oh, I was talking about Jimmy Quay, too. Let me tell you something funny story about Jimmy, who edited this with me. I wanted Jimmy Quay to work on Frankenhooker right after, as soon as the next film was Frankenhooker, and I wanted him to work on it with me. And the powers that be at Shapiro Glickenhaus didn't want him. They said they wanted a more experienced editor. So unfortunately, I couldn't work with Jimmy, and he went off and he made a film called, oh God, what is it? It's, Goodfellas. That's a film he edited.
Nobody saw that one.
Yeah, no, and he, he's in some capacity he's worked on almost every one of, I don't know if it's every one of Scorsese's films, but tons of them.
Plenty of them, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he couldn't have been easy to work with. We both, every time, by the way, we made a lot of stupid mistakes together, and every time we did, all we would do is go hysterical laughing. And you'd say, well, maybe we should leave it that way. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I don't know. I like the scene. I just like a guy frantically trying to open doors. I mean, he doesn't even have a plan. That's what I like about it, that there is no plan here.
Well, it's sort of, you've talked to me a little bit about, your initial inspiration for films is sort of based on scenes this simple or visuals this simple. You know, guys trying to get through a bunch of doors, and it's very cinematic. It makes sense to me.
I remember on the trailer for Brain Damage, they used that shot of the ominous shadow as if that was Elmer.
Oh, yeah.
This is Ari Rusimov, and he also directed a film. I think it's Shadows of the Night or Shadows of the City. Yeah. And in one of the takes here, he actually smacks this poor kid right in the face. Boom, But, Ari is just great. And he's also in Frankenhooker, he's the guy who is in the tuxedo in the bathroom smoking the crack.
Yeah, that's right. That's very funny. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and now this is a little, I mean, he's in a men's hotel. He's got to get food. I wanted a creepy vibe to it, and I don't know how the showers are here, but now I don't know I think that's the set there, but the scene in the shower here was actually shot in Central Park. We got permission to film at. This is all Central Park here.
Oh gosh!
And I wanted someone that wouldn't just be an average guy in there.
Yeah.
And we were trying to think what to do, and I forget, one of the people in the production office went to a local gym right around the corner and met Joe Gonzalez.
And he's great, obviously.
He's great. And he had never acted before. And, I mean, he was really taking a shower.
And he's great here. That's a great reaction from him.
Yeah.
Guy that works out, guy that's in the showers all the time, sees this scared guy. Hey, man, just chill.
Yeah, it's all right. All right. And, of course, he is Zorro in Frankenhooker. Of
course, and he's just magnificent.
Yeah, and I lost contact with him. And, it's difficult. You can't just pick up a phone book and start calling Joe Gonzalez's. There's more than two of them in the country, I think and I remember when we color timed this, we lightened up the whites because I wanted Rick really pale.
Yeah, he looks.
And we painted all those marks on him.
I know those marks are great.
That's not really him, folks, And that's a little, another one of Dave's rigs where it just glided right down the leg. It was just perfect. You don't even,
But again, this is almost, something like, it's a very satisfying vulnerability for a horror film. Naked in the shower, this Elmer sliding around, this unsuspecting
guy. Oh, that's beautiful.
Guy.
That was another shot of Dave and Gabe doing something with. I don't know how they did all of it. They, they would set it up. I would just show up and film it. I'd say it looked great to the camera, and they, they took it from there. And what I like about this is absolutely nothing happens.
Yeah.
And and Joe was great. He didn't care how many takes we did. He was obviously very comfortable with his body. So,
I just like his delivery and his voice. I've always he's the kind of actor I like to watch.
Yeah. Well, he was great, and he was perfect in Zorro.
Oh, he's dynamite. I mean,
he
so
was
good.
Just perfect in that. And
again, that's the humor comes from the Zorro character, not because he's playing it for laughs.
Yeah.
It's there's something more humorous about it, playing out with kind of real.
Yeah. Now this was all again. Somewhere this was a
Dead World.
Yeah. Now, I think the interior of the toilet stall is a set. But all this other stuff around here was really shot at somewhere in Central Park. Somewhere in Central Park, there's a shower room and toilets.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Now, this actor had a hell of a job to do.
Yeah. A little more Almag animation.
It's great.
And and he's really going at it.
He's great.
He's really... And I just loved... Again, I just thought I could get away with the blood here. Since it's not on him, it's just shooting up in the air. But, the MPA trimmed a lot of it.
Jeez, yeah.
I mean, that's... it was funny, when we submitted it for a rating, they didn't know what to rate it. They said to us, well, we're not sure how to deal with this one, so give us a couple of days. Jeez. And we thought, well, is that good? I was thinking, well, maybe they kind of understood the
humor
drug parallel.
Yeah.
But of course not. Of course not. I mean, I don't know what the MPA is like now, because never will ever have another film ever rated. But back then... they were impossible to deal with. Absolutely impossible to deal with.
Yeah.
They, it's like, especially if you're a little independent film, fuck you.
Yeah, well, that was I was always impressed to see the kind of stuff that we got to see in a Death Wish movie that we couldn't see in a in a Henenlotter movie, for instance. It's just the disgusting scum of the earth activity that happens in Death Wish 2 or 3. It's like nothing compared to a fantastical movie like this.
Well, again, it's worth pointing out that the MPA is funded by the major studios.
Yeah.
It's not funded by Frank Henenlotter and Edgar Ivins.
Yeah.
Oh, and I should talk about Edgar, too, because this is our second film together, and Edgar was very much a hands-on producer at this point. We're building the sets, making things work, getting the people. It was just, this and Brain Damage really felt like we were doing our own little home movie.
Yeah.
Things changed when we had to do the SGE films because they had to be SAG, unions and other stuff like that. And you didn't have the luxury kind of making a little home movie anymore. In fact, that's Edgar's face on that Polaroid at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that stuff. And
you're saying making like a home movie, but I mean, this is a time in which you guys could do a non-SAG film and it would have national release.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, I mean, but that's pretty much gone. I mean, right?
Well, it was, also the luxury of having a non-SAG film is if the scene didn't work, I would just reshoot it the next day.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clock at the back of my head. I didn't have to worry about penalties. The actors knew what they were in for.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I always kind of, I like doing the films this way. In fact, when we did Bad Biology, there was a return to that.
Yep. Yeah.
And the same with The Art Thieves. We were able to go back to this kind of version and make our own movie. The difference now is that Zachary would have been thrown out of the union.
Yeah.
Or fined for being in a non-SAG film. Today, when we were doing The Art Thieves, you could call up the union, you could call up SAG, and say, or an actor could and say, hey, I have an opportunity to be in a film. I want to do it. It's not SAG. And they'll work with you now. Mm-hmm. They'll say, oh, okay, pay pension, welfare, this. It's not the organization it once was. You know? So, and this is so creepy, listening to his girlfriend having sex with his brother and not caring because you're just...
That's not what he's interested in.
Not caring anymore. Yeah. And also, of course, I had to do one of my sophomoric jokes here. But if it makes me laugh, I figure it'll make most other people laugh. I don't, what can I do? What can I do? I always like gratuitous sex scenes in films.
Yeah, I think everybody does, right?
Yeah, I always like gratuitous nudity. Did I have to film it like this? Of course not.
I don't know. And plus, it's just a strange... Maybe I'm the only one, but the relationships in your films, the romantic relationships, they often mean something to me as I'm watching them. This is an interesting story to me about two brothers, one of which can't pay attention to his girlfriend. The other one shows up, and they're like... It gives the movie levity, by which all of the fantastical stuff is a lot more fun. I think it means more,
okay, but I just I don't know. I don't remember my reasons for a lot of stuff anymore. Okay,
but I think you were trying to just write good characters, right?
It was just instinct. It was just being intuitive. It was just saying, okay, let's do this now. Also, I can't have every scene be an effect scene. That costs a lot of money. So it's always easy to have people take off their clothes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nature's special effects.
It's the best scenes are naked scenes because they get, you just don't need to waste any time with it, And they're troopers for doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think we had a closed set also, I think
they're both really naked, it looks like.
Oh, they really are, but I didn't have any, no one's in the set. Oh, this is my stupid joke, but I love it. This is the whole point of, I don't even remember how that was done now, but,
it's great.
Actually, Rick probably looks a little too good here. I think now if I was doing this again, I'd probably give him dark circles under the eyes and make him look more emaciated, you know?
Mm.
But, you know, you can't go back, you know. I love the brains.
And that's that effect is done onto the film itself, or that's
Well,
the electric.
no, that's done after. Yeah, but it is on the. It's on the negative. Is that what you're asking?
How's it done?
I don't know. Al Mag did it.
That was Al Mag. Okay, yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, you do animation and I guess you superimpose it on there. I don't know. I have no idea. You know, I just say this.
We'll delete this part.
No, I just say no. I never do. You know, that's not my job. You know, I just say I'd like to do this. If it's something that I need to prepare, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Like I'll tell you what. I'll give you a plate of brains and some blue fluid. All right, you add the lightning. All right, that's a fair trade, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There we go.
And a weird dream scene. I'm not 100% sure of this, but if you'll notice, you'll see Elmer's suction cups are on Rick's torso.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's a really, yeah. See. Oh, what the hell is that shit?
Great,
you know.
Great.
I mean, and this is another scene. I think the MPA made us cut, or I don't know, just over and over. Or we had to solarize it or something. I don't know.
I just can't imagine all that back and forth, all that work. It's just so insulting to me. You know?
Well, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what can you say? You know, it's why I would never consider having. If I did a G-rated film, I wouldn't submit it for a rating anymore.
Yeah.
I found it offensive back then. You know, and boy, this is almost over, isn't it?
Getting there.
Yeah. Can we go now?
It's just.
This, you know, the moment we stop this, I'm going to think of 1,000 things I forgot to mention. People and. I'm at a loss now. You know.
No, I think you're doing good. I think you're doing fine. Just don't let it show. Don't let the audience know that you're pulling.
That I'm tapped.
Yeah.
That I don't remember a damn thing anymore. You know. I remember this was a strange place to film because, too, they had, you know, it wasn't meant as a set. And the radiators, when it was moved to wintertime, the moment the radiators would come on, we couldn't record sound either.
Oh, man.
It really sounded like someone was walking around with a hammer banging the metal. Just, you know, it was crazy. But again, we were nicely isolated from the world. And, you know. Oh, and let me talk. Oh, I know what else to talk about. This is, not, you know, 33rd Street was Hooker Central back then. And it was, the hookers used to work the cars. One side of the street was the railroad tracks. And the other side of the street was the buildings. And the cars would line up and the hookers would jump into the cars, do their stuff, and come out all night long. And this was also the beginning of the crack epidemic that swept New York almost overnight. And in the mornings, when I'd come in early, the street was full of used condoms and empty crack vials. They would just crunch under your feet. And it was, you know.
Crunch and squish, right?
Yeah. And I'd open the door, and sometimes there'd be a gal in there, and I'd say, "Oh, hey, you know, it's 8:00. Gotta go." "Oh my God, the sun is up." "Yeah, I'm sorry," you know. And that's the way. You know, we shot this with no lights. We shot this with all.
Oh wow.
The actual lighting down there. We didn't supplement the light at all. We just did it. We had the lens wide open, and we
got permission for that.
Yeah. This is a long story. This is crazy. Again, in theory, the city is supposed to help filmmakers. But the truth is, they'll help you if you're a major TV show or it's a major movie because they're making money. If you're making a movie for nothing like we did this for, I think the whole total for the film, counting post-production, prints and everything, was $600,000, okay? So if you're making a film for this, you're not going to make any money. So we asked permission if we could film on a subway, have a subway car. And they said to us, well, yeah, they'll let us have a subway car, but the trick was we have to have insurance that insured the subway line for $1 million. And they didn't mean just the subway car we were on. They meant the entire New York subway system. Because they figured there's no way in the world we're going to get insurance.
Yeah.
But there's always somebody out there who'll take a crapshoot, right? And we found an insurance company who said, sure.
Oh, no. Wow.
And we went back to the city and said, well, here's the insurance. Well, what could they say? They had to do it. And so what was that? So we did the, we got on, I think, at J Street Borough Hall, maybe. Is that a real stop? I don't remember anymore.
I believe it is.
Yeah. And we took this car all the way up to I wasn't 100% happy with those shots, but that's Artemis Pizarro, and that was Ken, who was also who was also doing construction. I wasn't totally happy with those effects. It was the best Al Mag could do at the time, but rather than cut them, I left them. Because they're at least conveying what's going on here. And here's a great cameo from. I figured even if you haven't seen Basket Case, it's a strange moment. Okay, and Kevin's hair was cut short then.
That's a wig.
That's a wig on him, and he was thrilled to come down and just do a.
Now she's got a wedding ring on there.
I don't think so. It wouldn't make any sense.
It doesn't, but it looks like a diamond ring on her ring finger. Yeah.
But I just like the idea of one with a monster in a basket and the other with a monster in his throat.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we got on at J Street. We took the car up to the Bronx, turned around, got back, and we shot all of these shots in under an hour, or in about an hour.
Yeah.
And it was all shot without sound. That way I could go a lot faster. And it was just manic. I'm just, okay, do it again. All right, do this. Now turn here. Okay, it was crazy. It was crazy, but we got it. That's all that really matters, right? I know that's so crazy, but, and even when they got on the car,
this is sad.
Oh, it's so terrible, I know.
Well, it's a nice double underline of the unrequited nature of the film. I think it works for the movie.
Well, I mean, isn't a horror film supposed to deal with ugly shit?
Well, it's a tragedy. There's a tragic nature to this that I think is part of what makes it work really well.
Drugs hurt everybody that you love.
There you go. See, yeah.
And I think I'm surprised we didn't have blood dribbling out of her mouth there. We must have fucked up that one. Maybe we did.
There's blood.
Maybe we did. Yeah, it is coming out. Yeah, I thought so. How could I have missed that one? Oh, yeah, there is. Oh, good. And
her final rest. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, close the eyes.
And that is a can of macaroni in his mouth.
I mean, story-wise, this is great too. He's flying so high. He looks at her. He sees this polarized. Thing. He's just still so gone. God.
Yeah. So.
It's tragic.
Poor Jane.
Great stuff.
Yeah, I forget what the character's name is. But, the doors only open for a minute, so he had to get off and jump back in fast before before the doors go. Or he must have run to the other door and got in. Because we didn't know backing up. And I love that. That was the headline of the day.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know. And that's the big subway scene. I guess this, and this was, filmed. But I love this. I loved it, And of course, when we did, 2 years later, when we did Frankenhooker, we still thought we could film on the subway. They had changed all the rules. So no.
And that was just a car.
That was just we went. We actually rented a. We went to the MTA. There was a graveyard of the stuff.
Yeah.
And we said to them, "What about? Can we get a car?" And they said, "Well, we'll cut you half a car, put it on a flatbed truck, and take it." And I think we rented it, I believe, or we returned it, but still, they really didn't. It was fine. I love it that twice he has to go down in the basement and find blood in his clothing and try. That was a difficult shot because we had to pan the camera and stop it exactly at the right spot, and that was Peter doing that.
That was.
Yeah, he would time it and boom, he would throw the lock on.
And who's this character?
Boom. That was Charlie Bennett.
That's right.
Who was head of all the construction, who built the courtyard. And, for his trouble, he got shot. And I love how savage these two are here.
Yeah.
And they fight amongst themselves here, which I think is great.
They're practically undead at this point. I love how far gone they are without having had Elmer.
Yeah, look at that. It looks
really,
like a giant leech, doesn't it?
Great, yeah.
And she's petting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're rotting away here. Look at them, right?
I know. That's all Gabe's makeup. Gabe loves doing that stuff. He progressively made them look worse and worse. I mean, Theo looks like a corpse there, too. And I love that they're fighting about it.
Yeah.
They're fighting about it.
Oh!
I remember also...
Did she handle this well?
She handled everything well.
She's doing great.
She handled everything well.
She's a great actress.
I mean, the thing is, you spell it all out. You tell them, look, we're going to have a special effect attached to your head. We're going to have really sticky blood squirting coming down your face.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pleasant, but
it's going to look so cool.
Yeah, and they understand this. They understand this. And I forget when...
Well, these two had both been around the block. They must have acted in a lot.
I don't think they had ever acted in a horror film before, though. And when that blood is squirting, I mean, she's like, oh, God, it's great. Yeah. And this courtyard, by the way, is based on the courtyard of my building down here also.
That's...
Oh,
yeah, with the trash out there.
Yeah. And that doorway leading inside, that's, again, my building. I mean, and you know what? You see that wiggling Elmer there? Okay, you know what that is? Dave, at the time, they used to sell these severed wiggling hands you could buy, rubber hands that would wiggle. And Dave went out and bought dozens of them.
Repurposed the electronics?
Yeah, and put them in. So anytime you needed a wiggle Elmer, that's what it was. He just flicked the battery and you held it up. And you moved it in a way that also, it didn't look like the same thing every time, And this is the same trick as he did with killing Bradley in the junkyard. Mm-hmm. And Lucille a minute ago. And the MPA had a fit with it. They said you can't show any blood actually flowing. And that's a Theo head, because we wanted his face to just, boom, hit that concrete hard, So the MPA was saying, all right, you can kill them, and you can have a monster do it, but we can't see the blood trickle. Okay, who knew that was the rule?
Yeah.
I don't even think that is the rule. That's just what they told us, okay? Yeah. If it was Warner Brothers, it wouldn't be a problem, Or do I sound bitter? I mean, it was depressing to see how this film was shredded by the MPA and by the company that had it.
Yeah.
Palisades hated the film.
Such fearful times, really.
They hated the film.
Yeah.
They also released it with the World's Worst campaign. When it first played, they had ads that said, brain damage, it will blow your mind, and no graphic.
Yeah.
You didn't know, what, is that a rock film? Is that a horror film? What the hell is it? They hated the film. They used to send us reviews of all the bad reviews. And this film got terrible reviews when it was out theatrically.
Until, though, right?
Yeah. I remember the New York Post gave it 0 stars and said, whoever made this film has no brains. Hey, well, okay. Bada boom. I was depressed, as you can imagine. And, when you get depressed, you try to blank it out. And I remember months later, I was walking past a newsstand, and they had, back then when video was new, they used to have all these magazines that catered to the new home video market, okay? And I remember picking one up, and I'm flipping the pages, and I see a photo from Brain Damage, and I went, oh no, it's all going to start all over again. Oh,
yeah.
And Zachary, by the way, when he was recording this, was choking himself and screaming at the top of his lungs. It was great, And there's a little fake floor with the puppetry coming up underneath it, you know. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I saw the magazine. I thought, oh, God, it's all going to start again. And I noticed they gave it 5 stars, 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
And my first thought was, oh, look, they're being sarcastic.
Yeah.
But something happened, and the film was discovered almost immediately on home video. And it got rave reviews overnight. So it went from a flop theatrical where the film was shit to all of a sudden being discovered on home video where they're calling it, oh, a new classic, a new this, oh, it's great, oh, blah, blah, blah. All right? I mean, Entertainment Weekly had it on the 100 best films you've never heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, so what's right? What's right? And then, of course, the joke for me was 2 years later, New York Post has a review of
this is the best
Basket
one.
Case 2. And they gave it 3 out of 4 stars. And they said, but for as good as Basket Case 2 is, it doesn't match the cult heights of Henenlotter's previous film, Brain Damage. Okay. So what's right? What's nice is, let me know early on, you can't buy any of the reviews, not the good ones or the bad ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just, ultimately, what's remembered is not the reviews or the critics or their names, but the films.
Yeah.
Okay? So, you know, I don't remember who the critics were that reviewed the stuff back then. You know, so there you go. And now we're getting more and more crazy. Now it's blue blood. I don't know, folks. It's what happens when you have a brain hemorrhage of too much Elmer. It's overdose. That's what this is. It's overdose. And as far as the ending here, you know what I got the idea from, of the light? From a song by Magazine called The Light Pours Out of Me.
Yeah.
I used to love listening to them. And, okay, there's my brother David on the right.
Yeah.
Karen Ogle. Yeah, my brother Donald is the cop that gets out of the car there. There, he runs in. At the time, he was allowed to do that. They've changed the rules. He couldn't appear in uniform today, but back then. And this was a mirror with some kind of optical reflective material that we stuck in Rick.
Yeah.
And as long as we shined the light in it, it glowed like that. And then it was, you know, Al Maglicetti added the optical on top of it, you know. And what does it all mean? Hey, I don't know, folks. It just seems appropriate for a film about drugs, doesn't it?
I think it's great.
You know, and that's that. So, the end. Boom, boom.
And we talked a lot about Zachary. We should also mention we, lost him pretty recently.
Oh yeah. Zachary passed away in 2016, and he was the official guest of honor at Chiller Theater for 25 years.
I got to be right next to him.
Oh yeah.
And the last Chiller was a nice.
It was nice. I'm glad I was there, and I had a nice talk with him, and you know. But he was the man died at the age of 98.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Can't be too sad about making it that far.
Oh, look, Mohawk Punk, Slam Wedge House. That's gay.
Slam Wedge House. Yeah. What's his birth name? His birth name.
Yeah. Right. You know, and so everybody, I guess I don't know what else to say. If I forgot to highlight anyone, I'm sorry.
We already talked through the credits.
What?
We should talk through the credits.
Oh, yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, I could mention something about every single person here.
Well, I was going to say we're excited to see Rick has resurfaced. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's back on the scene. We'll see him soon.
No, I'll see Rick at the one of the
New Jersey Horror Con.
Yeah, right.
Definitely got to talk about Benoit.
Right.
What is it? His credit?
Benoit
The French
I put French makeup effects.
Yeah.
Benoit, of course, thank you. Benoit Lestang was just starting out in the business then, and I had met him in France, and I said, he was saying, I'd love to be on a film, and we brought him into over here, and he worked on the makeup effects.
And fellow Gorehounds will recognize his name. He worked on Living Dead Girl, and he did some great stuff.
Oh, he went on to be a major.
Tons of stuff,
went on to be a major makeup artist on major films. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not this. I mean, I'm not sure this is on his resume, but knowing Benoit, it is.
Yeah.
Because he was. And Jim Muro's mom.
Anita Muro. Yeah.
And we're not kidding. That was incredibly excellent. She used to have a called Anita's Kitchen, and it was the best catering.
And it was catering, huh?
Oh, yeah, yeah. She also did Frankenhooker and Basket Case too for us.
Wow.
And everybody loved it. Everybody loved it, you know? Was Elmer's Tune? Well,
Yeah,
there
it
you
looks
go.
like it got a
Yeah, we
CBS
no, that
Robbins
was
catalog,
yeah, we got a legit thing. Aaron Nathanson, great old timer who did. He used to do all the like Doris Wishman films.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of the stuff. And I remember when we were doing the scene, doing the blowjob scene, he just stopped for a minute and he froze and he just turned to me and goes, "All right, now that's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen." He was a wonderful guy.
Do you remember
wonderful
the connection with Dead World Comics?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
They were probably happy to have that.
That was a lot of the
yeah.
stuff that the production crew does. You know what I mean? They come to you and say, "What about this? What about that?"
I like the contributing art galleries here. What's that fourth one?
It was a place I used to hang out at.
Oh, cool. Okay.
You know, and Cafe Battle and Statewide Auto Parts is where we shot. That was the junkyard, or the auto salvage part. I still don't remember where the hell it was, but it was either in Brooklyn or it was in
there's Blay right there.
Queens, yeah. And the last line goes to Zachary if you listen carefully. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching this, and thank you for supporting this film all these years. I really appreciate it, and so does Elmer.